Welcome to IHIP News as therapy for all of us as we get ready for Trump's inauguration. We want to dabble into conservative gossip from time to time as a way to laugh so that we don't sit in the corner and shit ourselves.
Right.
And so here's a little clip that I found really, really, really rich. So, on the right, you have all of these MAGA people who are like, the Democrats are groomers, and the Democrats are, they don't know what a real woman is or a real man, or we're alpha men and all this bullshit, right? They literally have a real life groomer named Matt Gaetz.
Yes.
And he has been credibly accused of sexual assault of a minor. And he was appointed by Donald Trump to be Attorney General. This report was so bad, he pulled out all of the sexual misconduct. Now, of course, he has a job at OAN. And when they're not, most of their anchors on OAN, the females, at least, I noticed they all wear like diamond encrusted crucifixes, they're big Jesus people.
Absolutely.
So they hire, of course, Matt Gaetz. And I thought this little tidbit was just fantastic. Here we have Matt Gaetz, the alpha male, discussing makeup application with George Santos.
What was going on with my makeup? Help me. Give me advice.
Matt Gaetz, let me tell you something. Highlighter is not for you. Stop highlighting the center of your face. It makes your eye very small, and it gives you the glow, not the glow you think it gives you. But
I have deep-set eyes, George. How do I fix the deep-set eyes?
Look at the flawlessness in my skin. No highlighter needed. You're a Florida man. I'm in Florida right now. When you're tan and you're a Florida man, you don't need that level of highlighter. Here's my honest advice for you, Gaetz. Here's what you need to do, Matt. You need to go buy yourself Double Wear Foundation from Estee Lauder.
Okay, just real briefly, remind me. Now, isn't it the Republican Party that demonizes drag queens, drag shows, just constantly saying that the core of the world's problems have to do with drag? Am I right on that?
Well, yes, and they use horrific tropes, and they dehumanize these people to the nth degree. And so here we have Matt Gaetz getting makeup advice from disgraced Congressman George Santos. Both of these are bottom feeder, the worst leadership that this country has ever elected and put forward. And here they are discussing makeup application. Now, I don't give a shit if men wear makeup. I couldn't care less. I appreciate that they're talking about the artistry of it, because at the top of the ticket, Donald Trump doesn't even have the decency to blend his. So I appreciate that they're having a nuanced conversation about how Matt could apply his makeup more. What bugs the shit out of me about this is the hypocrisy of it. And if Joe Biden or Hunter Biden or any Obama or any Democratic male for that matter were on MSNBC talking about makeup application with an out-of-the-closet gay man, which George Santos is, which I have no problem with, they would lose their fucking minds.
Oh, they absolutely would. And what's also interesting about this conversation is Matt Gaetz barely escaped criminal charges for his behavior. The House said there's House.
Thanks a lot, Merrick Garland, Christopher Wray.
Thank you.
Good job.
Appreciate it. The House said, the House committee that investigated him said absolutely there's substantial evidence. George Santos was expelled from Congress, and he's not going to be in Florida much longer because in February he has a trial for campaign finances abuse. So these are not only two complete bottom feeders, they're criminals, and they're just joking around on the We Love Jesus network like it's going out of style. I mean, the hypocrisy is so alarmingly, disgustingly gross.
So in other news, I just want to point out that whenever you have to start saying things you're not doing,
Right.
Like cocaine.
Right.
Like, it didn't occur to me to walk into the studio this morning and sit down and say, no, I'm not doing coke. No, I'm not doing crystal meth. It didn't occur to me because it's not even anywhere in my brain. So, of course, the son of the president-elect, Don Jr., who is just an abject disappointment to everybody,
Right,
from
including-
his father trickling all the way down to the general American public. So I do have empathy for the guy because he was raised by a malignant narcissist, but he does himself no favors. He has all the privilege in the world. He could go get therapy. He could go to rehab. He could dig deep and heal little Donnie, little Don Jr. He could do some inner child work, and he could lead a charge against his dad and say, look, we're from this very dysfunctional family. But he doesn't. He gets on his podcast, which the name of it cracks me up. It's called Triggered with Don Jr.
Of course it is.
And here's what he says.
I have a feeling that if I was Hunter Biden, if I was doing drugs, and if I was videoing it, it would probably be a big deal. I imagine you'd actually see this. I understand that according to the left, I'm the biggest cokehead or whatever it is since ever. They don't really look to their own. It's typical Democrat projection. But I think I know the video you're talking about because I was adjusting an Alp pouch, like a Zyn. I was adjusting a Zyn in my mouth. I'm literally standing next to my father and Elon Musk in front of TV cameras. So just to be clear, not doing coke, okay? That's not my thing. Never has been. Contrary to popular belief and internet lore and Democrat histrionics.
So this just cracks me up. I mean, here's a guy that sits around. I don't think he has a real job because of the whole Trump Organization fraud trial case in New York. So he sits around on his Trigger podcast and he talks about how he's not doing cocaine. When we all clearly saw a video where he was he put his hand in his pocket, then he was rubbing his gums, and the assumption was he was doing cocaine. He can barely keep his eyes open. It's like you wound him up as tight as you could, and you just go, da, 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 da. The guy is a nutball. Rumors of cocaine use have been plaguing him forever because anybody that's been around anybody on cocaine is like, oh, that's what it looks like. But yet he feels the need to come and say, oh, I'm not on cocaine, which again, I didn't walk in here and say, hey, I'm not on cocaine. You didn't, because it's not circulating, because the behavior is not being exhibited by us like it is him.
And I just want to point out how cruel MAGA is one more time. You know, Hunter Biden had a drug problem and went to rehab and struggled with it. And my husband has had, really big struggles with addiction. And it is a very, very serious disease, a medical condition where it takes a lot of humility, work, honesty, and growth to get to the other side of it. We literally have on the right wing right now, we have Elon Musk, who's rumored to be, a ketamine addict. We've got Don Jr., who's clearly a cokehead, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And then Donald Trump, who I think is a prescription pill junkie. And you have all of these untreated addicts that just abuse people, gaslight people, as addicts do. And then you have Hunter Biden, who, poor thing, had to go through all of this public stuff. And the way Don Jr. sits and bashes Hunter Biden and throws rocks at that glass house is so abhorrent to me. And the fact that every American family is pretty much touched by addiction, and the lack of empathy and the cherry picking on the right about which addicts get empathy and which ones get shame is so disgusting to me.
Well, I think the difference is Hunter Biden admitted he had a drug problem. And to get help, you have to admit you have a drug problem. All of these people in Trump's orbit, they've never admitted it. They had that Dr. Ronnie Jackson prescribing more pills. I mean, it was like a pharmacy in the White House with all the shit they were taking. So their response to everything is, if we say it's not true and we gaslight people and we lie, then we don't have to deal with it. And that's exactly what we've got. And then you've got this just train wreck of Elon Musk, Don Jr., Donald Trump, just all crashing together, but they're just lying to people about it. And people are so uneducated or in such willful denial, they don't want to believe it. But I agree with you. Hunter Biden going through what he went through during his dad's presidency with the criminal charges and all of, them showing his dick pics on the floor of the House, and to continue to stay sober, that's admirable. But the lack of empathy by these people doesn't surprise me because they have no empathy.
No, they have none. And it's, again, I want to point out that the majority of the people that vote for this moral depravity are evangelical Christians, that if you look at their profiles. It's, guns, God, and Jesus, and all this crazy shit. And there's just this cancer of hypocrisy in this country where you've married a movement of Christianity, which I'm not a Christian, but it's my understanding it's supposed to be about grace, no judgment, helping the poor, helping the sick. And you've married that movement where they've completely pushed all of that away. I read some article that came out like a year ago where a lot of people that go to these evangelical churches, they said that they think Jesus was too weak, too soft. Yeah.
I have not seen that.
Yeah. And so there's just, they're going into the real cruelty of it. And Don Jr., Donald Trump, their whole MO, Elon Musk, is this really weird owning people, controlling people, demeaning people. And you have all of these racist, gun-toting, gross Americans that like it. And there is this misery loves company aspect to all of it that is just so abhorrent to me.
Yeah, it's just with all of the addiction. I've suffered from addiction, family addiction all around. And it's offensive to me how they treat addiction in the Republican circles, because I guarantee you there are addicts that are Republican. It is not limited to libtards and liberal Democrats. It is a national problem throughout every family in America, Republican or Democrat. And I feel like they're institutionalizing shame for addiction by the way they handled Hunter Biden.
That's a good point. No, they are. They really are. And, Barack Obama did a lot of work in the Affordable Care Act to have treatments paid for, covered by insurance. And that's a huge, huge help for families that are trying to get loved ones sober. And then to have the way the Republican Party has treated the whole thing as political fodder, and the way Joe Biden supported his son through all of that process, to me, is where the admiration is. The way Donald Trump treats his kids is pathetic.
Yeah, he didn't give a shit.
It's absolutely pathetic. And Don Jr. is just, it's just daddy issues and wrapped up into one podcast called Triggered by Don Jr. It's like a psychological case study of what does a person look like that has daddy issues?
Right.
And then the professor just puts up Triggered by Don Jr.
And just hits play.
Exactly. All right, guys, we'll see you later. It's so